As well as the Lancaster, Harris has a new weapon at his disposal, the de Havilland Mosquito, which, as well as being used as both a fighter and a bomber, is successful as a pathfinder to lead the bomber formations onto their targets.
Yes?
Here's your radiogram now, sir.
Go ahead.
It reads, 3 Canadian production Avro Lancaster bombers, confirmation effective as from today.
Okay.
Harris needs more big bombers like the Lancaster to achieve his objectives. The Canadians come to the rescue. Working round the clock, unhindered by air raids, the first Canadian-built Lancasters begin to arrive in 1943.
Flights were done. The crew took over, anxious to be on their way. They had picked up one more crew member in Canada, a white Scottish-Canadian, Saskatchewan-born. They called him B for Bambi.
In time, an entire bomber group of 14 squadrons will be made up of Royal Canadian Air Force crews flying Lancasters, pounding Germany night after night.
The Battle of France, the Battle of Britain, the Battle of the Mediterranean, and now the Battle of Europe. 1,000 planes, 7,000 men, 5 million pounds of bombs hurled against targets 600 miles away. As KB-700 took off into the English night, back home more than 2,000 miles away across the sea, we heard that she had a new name now, Q for Queenie.
On course. Okay. Oxygen on. Everybody getting oxygen? Bombing we're okay. Pilot's off okay, Skip. Navigator's doing fine. Engine all set. Man, we're okay. We're gunner okay. On track. Okay, Bob.
By day, it is the turn of the American 8th Air Force, now stationed in Britain, to fly missions over the Fatherland, often passing returning Lancaster formations whilst en route to the same targets. It is a relentless round-the-clock campaign, which exacts a high price from both sides. In North Africa, the first real joint operation of the war is in progress. Field Marshal Montgomery and Air Vice Marshal Cunningham are engaged in the Battle of El Alamein, designed to turn the tide of the war in Africa. The RAF's role is to prevent enemy air support and to give the troops on the ground protection and assistance during the main assault. Hurricanes attack troop concentrations and transport, as well as taking care of Rommel's tanks. Wellington squadrons look after the bombing. The final phase of the attack, Operation Supercharge, begins on the 2nd of November. Cunningham unleashes all his tactical support squadrons, anti-tank fighters and light bombers to decimate the enemy's vehicles and artillery. The battle for El Alamein is the turning point for the Allies in North Africa. The Royal Air Force is now engaged in offensive and aggressive tactics in all theatres of the war.
Hurricane fighter bombers sweep in to attack a jungle village. These versatile craft have not only helped remove the Japs to India, they are now hastening the liberation of Burma and the entire East Asia sector.
In 1944. Under American General Eisenhower, the greatest invasion in history is about to begin. The Allies planned the invasion of Normandy in northern France, then the liberation of France and the move into Germany itself. The RAF smashes German communications and clears the path for the Allied armies. On June the 6th, 1944, over 2,000 transport aircraft tow gliders and drop 8,000 airborne troops into northern France to begin the massive Allied surge through Europe. The Luftwaffe is unable to put up any defense. Many of its aircraft are destroyed before they can even get off the ground. As the Americans and British move deeper into occupied Europe, the Russians close in on Germany from the east. The pincer movement on Germany is underway. However, the Luftwaffe is not quite finished. Germany leads the jet race with its Me-262. Although designed as a fighter, Hitler orders that the Luftwaffe use it as a bomber. And this at a time when fighters are desperately needed to stem the tide of bombers hitting Germany's vital assets. Because of Bomber Command's highly successful campaign targeting Germany's factories and oil refineries, the Luftwaffe is rapidly running out of fuel and spare parts for its remaining aircraft. Hitler has another new and frightening weapon in his arsenal, the pilotless flying bomb, nicknamed the buzz bomb, or doodlebug, because of the unique sound of its pulse jet engine. London is its main target, but relatively few get through. The RAF has its own new fighters capable of knocking them out of the sky. The RAF's first operational jet fighter, the Gloucester Meteor, and the new Hawker Tempest. May the 13th, 1945. With Hitler's suicide and Germany's surrender, the war in Europe is at an end. The Royal Air Force has adapted magnificently from a defensive force during the Battle of Britain to a highly efficient attacking force. In 1945, it is one of the most powerful air forces in the world. But the post-war era for the RAF will be a very different story. Berlin is left decimated and isolated within the sphere of Russian occupation. The city itself is split into 4 zones: French, British, American, and Russian. In 1948, Russia's closure of all routes into the city from the west makes it impossible for the Allies to bring in supplies. Soviet leader Stalin believes that the Allies will leave the city to Russia rather than risk confrontation. The only supply routes left are by air. Both Britain and America prepare to mount an airlift to keep the city supplied. RAF Dakotas and American C-47s start ferrying food and other necessities to the 2 million inhabitants of the western sectors. On the 1st of July, Transport Command's fleet of 56 Avro Yorks arrive in Germany. The York is a transport version of the Lancaster bomber. Its task is to transport supplies to Gatow in the British sector of Berlin. The RAF also dispatches its 2 Coastal Command Sunderland squadrons to operate between Hamburg and Lake Havel in Berlin. It's estimated that at least 2,000 tons of food, coal and other bare essentials will have to be flown into the city every 24 hours. The massive task of keeping Berlin supplied is a daunting one, as negotiations with the Russians end in stalemate again. As the months go by, supplies reach Berlin at an ever-increasing rate. Allied aircraft are flying into the city every 3 minutes. Air traffic control is at breaking point, so a time block system with height separation for different aircraft types divides the 24-hour day into 6 cycles. Within its 4-hour cycle, each base is allotted a block of precise times at which its aircraft must enter the Berlin air traffic control system. The aircraft fly in appalling conditions. Accidents do happen. Fortunately, very rarely.